Hi everyone, welcome back to the Mental Health Series with Butterfly and the Equality Justice Alliance. And today we have a guest. She is
Dr.Suriya Daya.
And Suriya has been an ally for the LGBT community in Barbados, and today she's going to be sharing her professional side of what she does, how she works with the community, and her passion for why she became a psychologist. So welcome, Suriya, and thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to be talking about a lack of access to services in Barbados, to mental care providers, and some of the stigma associated with what that is. So
Lack of access. Okay, so starting with what I do.
yes.
So I am a registered educational and child psychologist. I see children, families, work with schools, other professionals. The work ranges.
And how long were you doing this?
I finished studying in 2016, so not that long.
Okay.
Yeah, not that long. I worked and studied in the UK for a long time, and then I came back to Barbados. So I've been here for just about 2 years.
Okay. So what age is children? Because people have a myth that the age for children is just like 14, 13-ish.
Yeah.
And something, depending on the reach, like the Americans have a different range for what youth is. So tell us your...
So I studied in the UK, so all of my training was done in the UK, so that's where I make all of my reference to. Not saying anywhere else is just as good, but that's just because I studied and trained there. So when I first started studying, actually the age range of children went up to 18. So it was from 0 to 18. And then while I was studying, legislation decides to change because of new research that came out saying that the brain actually doesn't develop till you're age 25. So then the whole legislation changed, and it was a whole new area that psychologists had never seen before in England and Europe. So it went from 0 to 25. So when I say children, I'm talking about children and young adults.
Right.
So that's 0 to 25.
So usually in Barbados, we find that persons are scared to seek help for their children at that age, and usually, again, we have the notion that it's 14-ish, sometimes maybe 18, again, to the legislation of Barbados. So, and the age for consent is also misconstrued many times, especially in Barbados, where you're saying you can seek services to 16, but then the age of consent for sex is a bit
blurry.
Yes, blurry. So what do you find as a challenge where persons, parents have problems accessing services for their children or for their own self?
So problems with accessing services is, what can you afford? I think it all comes down to money. There are lots of public services that you can access that are free or of a much lesser cost. However, those wait lists are really long, and that's the unfortunate thing, because there's usually only one psychologist or one or two people in those places, like QEH, CDC, Polyclinic, and they can't physically see everybody. So it's lack of professionals that is a main concern. However, those that can afford can probably seek more private, go the private route. And usually private psychologists have a sliding scale, like myself. I have a sliding scale, so obviously a person coming into me with good income from a two-person family household, yes, they can afford the services. But not everybody can afford those services. So my sliding scale goes based on the family and what's the household income. Because I can't expect someone from the Black Rock community to afford something the same that someone in, I don't know, the Heights or whatever you want to say can afford. So it's good to have a sliding scale, but access to services, they're limited.
It's very
and it's challenging, that's for sure.
I find because of my community activism and work around Barbados, I find that the polyclinics rarely have a counselor, for us a trained psychologist or a psychiatrist.
Exactly.
And then the Barbados Psychiatric Hospital, I think that is one of the worst, and I'm being nice, one of the worst mental health facilities due to a lot of things that I've experienced personally with partners, friends and family, and again, the reputation that they have, and people can check, it's been documented in the press, all of the mishaps they've had with staff, with patients, for years.
Yeah.
And again, with the psychiatric ward in the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, that's not any better either.
Yeah.
And I find the stigma associated with mental health is ranging in Barbados. When you hear mental health, you automatically think the person is mad and needs to be sedated with drugs.
Yeah.
When you hear mental health, a local Bayesian saying is, oh, they want Black Rock, which is where the psychiatric hospital is located. And sometimes the person that have a better understanding of mental health, they know about it ranges, it's a spectrum, and people need help. And if you do a bit of introspection, you may find that you have a bit of mental illness. You get theories, because when you look and see, and again, use reputable sources when you're looking for information online.
Yes.
Because people often
believe everything online.
Yes, and self-diagnosis is a very terrible thing.
Sure is.
So that's where they're trained professionals like you. But again, I find the lack of access in Barbados is very daunting, and it's even worse when it comes to LGBT persons.
Yeah.
So, could you share?
I could imagine it being, because now it's almost like a double stigma.
Yes.
When you have the LGBTQ community, you have the natural stigma of what would have been the mental health. Like you said, people have to go down to Black Rock. Years ago, they would call it what? The Jenkins. The Jenkins building. It has that psychiatric hospital has such a awful stigma to it. You know, I have lots of ideas on how we could change that, but that might be for another time.
Because looking for ways to help the mental health society in Barbados blossom and get to a place of standardized care is the goal for this.
Yeah.
So.
So accessing services, especially within the community, it's I guess it could be a tricky thing. I don't know, you would have to share your experience, but for me, if I'm thinking about how it could be tricky, I'm thinking, okay, do I want to go to this person? What if this person doesn't understand me? What if I go and they're not, I don't know, what do you say?
Competent?
Not competent to deal with all that comes with not only just seeking mental health services, but seeking mental health services and the LGBT community. It's a real tricky
situation.
Yeah, and it's a shame. It's a shame that that's what Barbados is. But it's also a Caribbean thing too, right?
It is, because around the Eastern Caribbean, there are other countries that, again, this is in partnership with, and the access to mental health care is the same pretty much across the Caribbean. And in some countries, there is only one place you can go, if that.
Yeah.
And again, because of cultural biases, societal norms, religious reasons, some people won't access mental health services worse than if they are visibly LGBT members.
Yeah.
So
what
that
I would
always
say
presents
though,
a challenge.
Yeah. What I would say though is make sure that it's with a registered professional. Do your homework. Like any other medical professional or paramedical professional or esthetician, make sure they're registered. And if they are registered and they are trained appropriately and adequately and all those things that come with it, there should be no biases. Because in this field of psychology, there should. It's a big word, but there should be none. Because we're supposed to come in, you're supposed to feel like you're in a safe space. Whoever you are, whether you are part of the community or not, you should feel like you're coming into a safe space to share your own personal challenges, experiences, whatever. And me as the professional should be accepting to that without any bias. I don't care if you are purple or if you are green. That should not matter.
Usually
it should, yes.
Things don't always go as they
exactly.
should.
And people have their own beliefs too. So I mean.
But I think in that setting you should remove your personal beliefs.
You definitely should.
And put forward your professional.
You definitely should. It should always be. That should always be the case. However, it is reality.
Yes.
And we know it's not always the case.
Okay, so in your practice with children and families, what are the main things you come across in your practice?
So right now, I can talk about more recently. More recently, I've been seeing a lot of teenage kids, and most of a few topics that come up would be anxiety, depression, bullying at school, self-esteem, self-worth, maybe work, school pressures, maybe family life pressures, and I have actually been seeing quite a few kids, especially teenagers, that are trying to figure out their sexual identity and where they all fit in the world. I've actually been seeing quite a few of those as well, which is pretty interesting. But these are also coming from families that are accepting.
Right.
Accepting to whatever situations, and them knowing, okay, my child needs to talk to somebody. And kudos to them. Those are the families that we need to give like big hugs to, because those are the ones that are amazing. But there are plenty out there that don't have that family support. You would sometimes get not a relative, but maybe auntie or uncle down the street that knows the family, and they might call and say, you know, well, I know XYZ, I know I'm not a guardian or a parent, but I'm really concerned about this person. And I will try. I can only try to say, you know, if a guardian can call or make contact, that would be really appreciated. If they don't want anything to do with it, at least get something in writing that they're allowing their child to see me. Just for legal purposes. But it's a real tricky situation. That's all I can say.
Wow. That is definitely interesting, especially the part where the sexual identity comes in, because I find in this generation it's a little more easier with information online and people you can find, celebrities you can relate to.
And all movies or series or TV shows,
everything has in an LGBT character and references that you can relate to.
So it is being desensitized, but at the same time there's still such a big stigma. And even at schools, you would see secondary schools and they're like, yeah, you know, I'm gay or I'm bi, whatever, and kids are like, yeah, you know, that's fine. But then there's some really horrible, some children are really mean. Really, really mean. It's very heartbreaking, but they will still be the anti whatever.
So
it's really harsh.
So when it comes to bullying, have you found anyone with suicidal tendencies?
Yes, a lot.
How do you work with them in that state of mind? Because I find that it's not widely spoken about suicide in the Caribbean, because in America, in the UK, there are cases where persons talk about teens, suicidal deaths, those kind of things, but I guess we don't want to admit that it happens in the Caribbean. For sure. Overseas, they have pretty much everything covered, right? We're only now starting. But, you know, we have the World Mental Health Day we had the other day, and the Barbados Psychology Society. We did a whole segment on world mental health, and because the theme of what would have been 2019 was suicide prevention, youth and suicide prevention. So we did our own segment on that, on the radio and on TV. Challenging.
But
do you have it? Like, is there any?
there is a recording. So I think there's a Facebook page,
Right.
and they have all the recordings on it. I don't think they have the radio one, but it was on the Sunny Side Up show with Tracy. Because I remember because I went on it.
If you can find that, we'll post a link to it in the video.
Yeah. That's also somewhere where you can go and look for psychologists. They have a directory of registered psychologists on the island, and you can maybe email or call if there's someone you see there that you want to go and see for future reference. But dealing with suicide, and especially teenagers or children and young adults that have these thoughts or just are in low moods, maybe not depression as a label, but feeling low generally. There are just a few things that I guess friends or parents or family can look out for, and that's things like that they change their routine, or they're not eating, or they're not sleeping. You realize they're being isolated quite a lot. There's a bunch of things that we can look out for to see changes, because it's all about recognizing changes in people, and maybe asking if they would like to talk to somebody, or just being supportive, or calling a professional and saying, I am worried about X, Y, Z. I think those are good routes to go.
Okay.
But definitely looking for those symptoms before going forward.
Okay. And finally, how do you think the seeking of mental health has changed in the past 5 years from what you've seen? And where do you think it's going to go? Is it getting better? Are you seeing more people access services, regular persons, LGBT, children, youth, families, older persons? How do you think it's going?
Definitely, I think it's getting better, which is a plus.
Mm-hmm.
It's not there yet, but small steps.
Right.
It is definitely better than maybe 5-10 years ago. There's still a stigma attached to it, but with things like we said, or like TV shows and movies and social media, all highlighting I think this is an era for mental health, and everybody's talking about mental health. And wait, you don't have a therapist? Are you okay?
Right.
Like, everybody got therapists. That's where we would like to get to in Barbados, but it's getting better. That's for sure. That's what I can say. Small steps.
Yeah, definitely small steps.
Small steps.
So,
yeah.
Thank you very much for coming on and sharing. And hopefully we will have all her information. Not hopefully, we will have all her information, and so you can reach out, get a consultation. Youth is up to 25, so just think about that. Younger people.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you very much.
And even if you're over 25, that's all right.
Right, so you can still come, because she is registered and trained professionally to work with
there are quite a few that are. So look in that
so
directory.
we look out for the directory of mental health providers in Barbados, and again, we will also help you in the other Caribbean countries to find those persons who are trained, and so you can seek these services. So thank you again, and this was another video of the Equality and Justice Alliance and Butterfly, and we'll see you on the next video, guys.
Bye.